Hello and welcome to this short presentation on our recent experience with the CQWW SSB contest. This year, just wanted to have some more fun introducing contesting to newcomers as well as exploring some new portable sites. So initially when I had this idea, VU2XE, Oldman Harsha from Bangalore, said he is interested and he had some portable site in his mind which he shared with me. Since VU3SPD Vasa had expressed his interest, I just checked with him whether he is interested to join portable contesting, because this site is around 350 kilometers away from Bangalore on the western coast. So we did thorough analysis of the site, checking the photographs which was sent by VU2XE, and then I did see that the proximity of salt water, because we are carrying mostly the verticals, the salt water proximity becomes very important. So I had 3-band VDA and 40 meters. I had a SPITFIRE array and one receiving antenna, which will go step by step here. This is not about just the operation, but since we did a lot of things prior to the operation, a lot of planning, these slides were used to introduce the team to the multi-2 at this location. We plan to improvise this operation technique a little bit further as we get more experience. Hope you all will enjoy this journey along with us. So when we started this contesting, I had some goals to the team. We have to cross individually at least 500 queues, and we have to try some new antennas. I had built some filters in the past couple of years, which I wanted to test as well. Also, we wanted to achieve ambitious goal of 2000 plus QSOs with this 3-member team. We have set up the site, we have set up the goals, we had teams, and we had the final member who showed an interest a day or two before the contest. VU2XE, the key player from the logistics standpoint, he has his ancestral house very close by to this particular location. This location is a river estuary with the Arabian Sea and Shambhavi River, and water is mostly saline or highly salty in nature. In the higher mountains, we would have gone for hex beam or any other antennas where the elevation would be beneficial for us. But for here, for the logistics purposes, we had to carry vertically polarized antennas as much as possible. This is the map of the location. We just had a couple of antennas and one RX loop. We had a tri-band VDA antenna, which worked very well in this occasion as well. And we also had a 40-meter vertical, which you can see that north side and northwest is almost in saltwater area out here in blue. So we had a long list of equipments to carry. Most of the equipments I had from my last contesting. I had almost everything from my home station now carried to native place, and all these antennas were carried. We prepared a big list we are going to carry and what might be necessary to purchase locally or to get help from others, etc. Then we had a layout plan for the daytime and for the nighttime. For the daytime, I had a high power triplexer for 20, 15 and 10 meter band, VA6 AM design, which I homebrewed a couple of years ago. Then going to 3 band pass filters, PI4 Charlie from Netherlands. That is also a homebrewed high power band pass filters. Then going to 2 different radios at the same time operating. We operated 20 and 15 meters simultaneously, but we had issues with the 10 meter bandpass filter, which I recently fixed after the contest. We thought of using SDR radio as a third radio. to listen only mode, but we never plugged that in. The radio 2 was replaced with the KX3 and a small amplifier which VU2XE was carrying. So we had TS9 590 and KX3 going parallelly at any given point of time. At night time, we used only low power band pass filter, which I had W3NQ and design for 40 meters. And we had that to connect that connected to the amplifier and going directly to 40-meter vertical. We had this 20-meter band pass filter directly getting into VDA for second station operation. There were a lot of guidelines to the team which we had, how to route the cables, because this is the first time we were all getting used to operating multi-station. The proximity of transmitting antenna and receiving antennas were very close by. We wanted to take care of interference problems from the ground up. There was a introductory 10 minutes or 15 minutes kind of a guideline briefing to the team on the ground as well, impart any knowledge which I had to the participants, as well as to learn from their practical experiences. There was consensus or how to operate and what are the things which to look for in certain conditions were made clear to the team. So main idea here was to avoid unwanted band switching, unwanted use of any bands which will cause the interference without the filters, etc. As a team, we were actually looking for a good propagation that weekend. Solar flux was increasing day by day, and we had a solar flare also later. But before the solar flare also, there was an increase in flux, and I think the contest day we had 100 plus SF solar flux index, and we had a very good chance of 10 meter being open, and it happened so. Only thing on this propagation which we felt was not enough, maybe because of our own equipment or antenna capability, was on 40 meter, where we could not get through. Around 50 QSs we made on 40 meter, which we found that it is not at all enough. We could have done at least 10 times more than that in this contest. We had expected a good higher band openings, and it happened so during the contest. When actually we dived into this contest, we wanted to encash whatever we had at in our hands. So if there was a pile up, we actually ran behind the pile up. If there was a search and pounce with some multipliers, we went there. But our some guidelines kept us focus in some areas. We had this operating schedule also for both the days. We had highlighted spot which you can see where the band changing times for us for that particular radio. Then to highlight that those times we have to change the antennas, filters, and make some finer adjustment if required for SWRs and etc. We had planned this properly, as I learned from the D expeditions and the previous contests and things like that. But we tried to keep the radios on whenever it was possible. We kept on calling CQ on runtime bands, or whenever we found that we could get in with the run or multiplier, we tried to do that. We had some more guidelines on operating itself, because it is a multi-2. We didn't want it to interfere with other station, especially with the voice, our own voice interfering with them. We wanted the foot switch, not the hand mic switch to press and all that. It may seem trivial for many hams who are not used to contesting, but using the foot switch, big boon to the contesting, especially on the voice side. And also using the voice keyer instead of calling CQ many times. Those are the learnings I feel were important from the new contesters perspective. We also wanted that everyone is familiar with N1mm plus and its behavior, especially when logging, using the check log for checking the call signs, accurately logging them, accurately putting their own call sign as an operator before starting. Things like that are very important from tracking their own performance in the contest. So we did that type of exercise as well. The team had to be educated on what needs to be done, what should not be done, how to change the bands. So these were some of the guidelines for them. It worked very well because of these guidelines. We had some more guidelines here. One of the thing which I felt very important from the team perspective, because of the nature of competitiveness or seriousness which I wanted to bring in, although we were not a high scoring station there, we wanted to get that into everyone's mind is about spotting and avoiding to check internet for friendly spots and things like that. So that is one of the areas where the newcomers may split, because this is one of the biggest criteria in most of the contesting is never do self spotting. That means if you are calling a CQ on a particular frequency, do not spot yourself to announce the world that you are on that frequency. It is always good to wait for somebody else to spot you without you asking them to spot. For us in this 10-meter runs which we had during the contest, I think the moment we called CQ, somebody in the European world spotted us, and suddenly the pileup started. That is perfectly okay, but we would not be allowed to spot ourselves. So there are some areas of the contesting which we brought into the operator's mind, which I felt was very important. And also how to put the amp on the standby when you are not operating, when to take rest, how to keep yourself going in those wee hours, and how to avoid some noise, how to get yourself into a comfort zone of the contesting. These are some of the aspects which we wanted to bring and educate, as well as improvise in our contest. Since this VDA, vertical dipole array, which I designed, was a single person operational comfort perspective, it has three different bands on the single pole with the smaller separation than required in the monoband antennas. Still, it has got a good radiation specs. I have a very good front to back ratio of 20 dB or more. We have a salt water gain of around 9 dB and above, and at very low angles as well, like 20 meter was within 10-15 degrees. It has got all the primary lobes in the right direction there. So in similar way, we have 15 meter, similarly on 10 meter. All these were actually, when we tuned, we tried to tune on SSB side, and there is a provision to add a length of wires to get it on CW band when required. So we know that adjustment is required each time when we operate a particular contest. Then there is a Spitfire array, popular antenna for very low band, like 80 meter and 160 meter, using the single radiator and using the two lines as director and reflector each. Here I used elevated 40 meter vertical. Then we had one single reflector. The vertical was a quarter wave, and the radials were again tuned resonant quarter wave. The reflector approximately half wave, which was modeled using 4-neck 2. And I found that the gain is very good, but although theoretically it was like this, but for some reason it was not giving the fire capability which I wanted. Above everything, when we do the planning, we do the planning for the best, but we also expect some issues, and these issues were many. There were arc welding going on in within 100-200 meters of our operating shack and antenna site. This area was used mainly for cage fishing, and the fisherman there was growing his farm culture in the river area. There was some construction work going on, So, but it was limited to Saturday, fortunately, and same day they used and burnt up some of the mains power lines in the building, which got us very much into tensed moments, and we finally had to hire 5 kV genset that evening, and rest of the contest we operated only using the genset. There were few LED lights, including a street light, and in his premises also there were some LED lights. These are very notorious to generate hash noise. The noise was more than S6 to S7 when they switched on the lights, and then we had to request them to switch them off for that in that period which we are there. We were hoping that we will do a good job on 40 meter, because noise was very low at that location and we had a good capability to put, but some reason we have to investigate in the future. 10-meter operation on the first day, probably because of higher SWR or band changing, one of the capacitor in the tank circuit actually went off. This is a PI4 Charlie design, and the capacitors were rated at 1000 volts, which as per my analysis later were insufficient or on the borderline of required reactive voltages on that tank. Later I replaced that at my home with I think 4 kilovolt capacitors from TDK. During the contest, since it went out, I had one stub which I had actually carried for 40 meter to be used in the high power side. So it was a 40 meter short stub to use it on 40 meter, but I had to open the stub line to create it as a stub for 20 and 10, and it went on very well. So we had some manageable interference due to 10 meter stub line in operating 15 meter band, but we did not operate 20 meter because 20 meter would be affected with the interference heavily due to the stub. So we stick to 10 meter and 15 meter with that stub line and additional filter. So that was the only problem with the equipment which we had. So you can see that stub line in the lower photo there lying on the triplexer. It was very good opening on 10 meter on both the days, although they were lived for short for us, but we had a very good runs for on both the days on 10 meter, and 15 meter of course was good. 20 meter we did not, I think did not get much of the run required on 20 meter, but we had very good fun all round on most of the bands which we operated. So we did definitely a good score, 1000 plus QSOs for this effort. Most of the QSOs were in 10 meter band, and secondly on 20 meter band as expected. A 15 meter we could have done much better, but I think we overall we were happy with this type of results. This is a team after dismantling all our antennas. Thank you very much to all of you. I hope it has given some ideas and inspiration to some of you to do serious contesting and possibilities with portable contesting. Thank you, and here are a few slides. Probably some of the audiences who are wondering why I'm behind vertical antennas in coastal areas. This will help. I will leave these slides here for reference sake. So we normally use such tools to justify our own decisions at the end and ensure that we can improvise such technical aspects each year as we gain more experience with the portable operations. So we had a similar exercise for the seaside portable, how that benefits with the gain areas, especially for the long distance DX. Thank you.
70 please.